Welcome to the Harjit and Prayer show with your host, Harjit and Prayer.
Hey Harjit, how's it going, dude?
Prayer, prayer, prayer. Happy Patch Tuesday.
Happy Patch Tuesday? Nice.
Yeah, it's all about patching, patching, patching this week.
I hate patching, dude. Like just release it and it has to be perfect. No bugs.
Patching is awesome. That's what I always say. It's
um, I just, upon recommendation from some folks at work, I just started watching this show called Halt and Catch Fire.
okay.
So back in the days of when mainframes were more popular, or maybe just computers in general of that era, it's like 70s and 80s. If you issued this halt and catch fire command, it basically told the system to run at 100% capacity. And so when you did that, um, it had no way of receiving any more commands because it's already running at peak capacity. So essentially, like the system could potentially melt down
Okay.
on you. So the show is about like the earlier days of like the early 80s, the early days of PC computing. It's fiction, but supposedly it's based off of real stories of things happening, kind of like Forrest Gump. That story is not true, but there's historical events in it. It's not funny. It's a drama.
Yeah.
So yes, I've been watching that on Netflix, and it's really funny. Like, did this really happen? And some of the ways they handled bugs in the, and at the time, so much was tied to the hardware.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, when they tested something like, all right, I guess we can get away with one in 100 being bad, because that would mean that the company would eat the cost to,
Yeah.
whatever. You couldn't patch at that time. So it's an interesting show. If you need something to watch, I recommend it. It's very, very interesting indeed.
Did you say it's on Netflix?
Right now, it is on Netflix. Yeah. Yep.
You know what I'm finding though with all these streaming, providers and stuff. I feel like Hulu has a lot more than Netflix does. I think I've exhausted what Netflix provides, pretty much. But we've been like flipping over to Hulu, and seems like there's a lot more there than you get your
Mhm.
your TV series and stuff like that, and obviously those show up every time they run it, and so you got new episodes, and you got movies and stuff too. Amazon Prime is kind of iffy too. Like I don't really see new stuff often over there.
Mhm.
They'll say like recently added and stuff, but it's actually like really old shit. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm finding like I hop between all of them, and so we have right
Yeah, we
now,
do too. Yeah.
like we have Disney, we have um, Amazon Prime Video,
Mhm.
Hulu, and Netflix, and I'm like on when I watch something, it's like, okay, who has it?
Right.
But yeah,
And don't you wish our friends who run their Plex servers could actually update some content?
I don't know anything about that.
Ah, Kenji.
Um, so yeah, and there's another interesting show that again people at work told me about, called, it's on Amazon Prime, Tales from the Loop.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
just, I only saw the first episode and it was outstanding.
okay.
It gets into like quantum level stuff, and
Oh,
yeah, it's just very, very interesting.
okay. Okay.
Yeah, so but the last thing I binged, though, like I could not stop watching, was The Tiger King. That
I
just
did not watch that. My wife won't let me watch it. She's like, "You're not watching that crap." I'm like,
it is
okay.
it is crap. It is absolute garbage. But I was
Yeah.
like, did this really happen? Like, this has to be fake. And then I looked it up, and sure enough, like all this stuff was real. I'm like, oh my gosh, there are some interesting people out there.
Yeah.
So, but
There are definitely interesting people out there. Have you seen pictures of some people when they're going out in this stay-at-home situation where they're supposed to wear a mask, but then they're you see people out in public with like the weirdest things that they put on their face or their head. It's like seriously, like where do these people come from? Like, like they'll put a bucket with a hole, or paper bag, or like one person, I saw a picture of one person had a one of those cones that you put on your head for birthdays.
Mhm.
Like, God
This
bless
is
them.
this is how bored. No, this is how bored people are. People are
I
bored
guess.
out of their minds, and this is like, oh, this is how I can be funny.
Yeah.
Oh boy!
Yeah.
But
I
I
think.
I went to Home Depot to pick up something I ordered, and because the recommendation now it's like maybe the masks help, you know.
Yeah.
And so I was wearing one, and somebody was like right behind me, like standing a foot away. And so I turned around and very politely said, like, "Hey, can you please back up? This is actually for your protection." And they like kind of freaked out, like, "Oh my God, like, what are you doing out?"
Oh, really?
It was hilarious. That is how I entertain myself.
That's good. That's
But
good. Yeah,
yes,
because they think you're contagious or something. That's why you're wearing a
yeah,
mask.
they're like, "Oh, yeah." I don't know what they were thinking because everybody else was very, very well distanced apart except the person right behind me,
Yeah.
and then they backed up and then everybody behind them maintained their distance and stuff. So
Yeah.
anyway,
So
but
anyway, so speaking of that, you wanted to talk about this the new version of SETI at home.
well, actually the
It's
main
called.
program is called Folding at Home, and SETI at Home was one of the projects that they
Mhm.
hosted. And so when you signed up for the folding project, there was different things that you could choose from. And SETI was one of them. And recently, SETI just shut down the thing. They got what they needed. They didn't find aliens. um, but what had happened is the usage for folding at home had gone down significantly from um, I forgot the exact number, but it was really high. I think it was in the millions. So it came down really low, and so there's about 30,000 active users, which is still really good. But after the current COVID issue happened, there was a project available that could help just understand the protein structures better. And so people started signing up more and more and more, and it went up to like 300,000, 700,000. And I remember some of our friends were saying, like, I'm on this thing, but I'm not getting any data for a project to process. My computer's just sitting idle.
Right.
And what was happening is that there were so many people that signed up all at once that it actually overloaded the systems that host the project data for folding at home. And so they had to expand
Oh
their
my God.
they had to expand the infrastructure to handle that. They did that pretty quickly. But now what has happened is that there are so many people on the project on folding at home that it's breached the exaflop barrier. So the compute available overall is 7 times faster than the world's fastest supercomputer today, which is insane because
God,
these are just all
that's
PCs.
insane.
Yeah, so it's
Right.
a really good article. We'll put it in the notes. I just
Yeah.
read it today. I don't know if there's any corrections or updates that might happen because as the supercomputer fans find out, they might just kind of like, well, blah 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 blah. And you know, each depending on what kind of compute you have, it's good for something. And so generally, supercomputers are not very good for something like Bitcoin mining. But I forgot what they're called, but the programmable um, what are they called? FPGAs are good for Bitcoin mining because you can program to do that very specifically.
Right.
Um, Supercomputers are just really good at a very particular kind of math. FPGAs are good at another kind of math. Our home computers and stuff like that are good at a very good particular kind of math. Quantum, again, good on a very particular kind of math. And so we can get into arguments, well, like that's not the same as blah, 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 blah. But
Yeah.
it's still cool to think that, holy cow, there's so many people on this thing that it's actually competitive with that scale computer.
Oh yeah. Oh
You
yeah.
know,
It's incredible. Yeah.
so I am interested in seeing like, okay, what's the actual data and stuff like that.
Where does it
But
go from here? And
yeah, it's pretty neat that that many people are interested in helping, figure this thing out.
yeah.
So
They're probably what, over 1 million and stuff, probably.
I don't know the exact numbers at the moment, but I mean, way back when the PS3 came out, you could actually have the Folding at Home project run on your PS3 when it was idle, and so at that time there was like 15 million users. But that did not the amount of compute still did not compare to what we have today.
Oh yeah. Right.
So
Okay.
so that was that. I thought that was kind of neat.
Yeah, it's only recently that I heard about the folding at home stuff due to the COVID-19 issues. So I was like, oh, okay. Then that sounded like the SETI at home, which I was very familiar with, and that goes back so many years, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. You can form teams and stuff like that. So back when I was a sysadmin, I got permission to use our spare cycles
Yep.
to purpose towards this because the computer stayed on during the day, but they were off at night. So during in between bells and unused computers in the labs and stuff like that, they'd be doing this thing, and we were a team as a district, which was kind of cool. Of course, we didn't compare to the big ones out there, but it was okay, we're contributing in a positive way to science.
Right.
And we had chosen a something to do with helping unfold the structures of cancer to help cancer research and stuff like that.
Right.
This other cool thing, and this is just a rumor, that there's some mumble about the specs on the Surface Book 3, which we'll be probably seeing sometime this year, maybe soon actually, and it's going to have it's going to have up to 32 gig of RAM and quad processors, and I guess a significant jump in GPU spec as well. It's really late at night. And so I was like, holy cow, like that is pretty sweet, because a lot of complaints that I've heard about the Surface Book is, well, I can only go up to 16 gig of RAM. I can't really do my home lab stuff on it and stuff like that.
Right.
And other manufacturers have kind of gone beyond that at this point, which, all right, this is really cool. I just hope it's like self-serviceable, like you can open it up yourself and put in the RAM that you want instead of having to buy it the way that you want, which is kind of annoying because like you may not be able to get the thing that you want with amount of RAM, but maybe in a year you can, or when the price of RAM comes down on eBay or something like that, you can buy it off there and then put it in yourself. It'd be nice if they started letting us do stuff like that again.
I doubt this will be the case like that, but it's definitely a good thing to have. Yeah.
Yep.
And I think it comes with a 13.5 and a 15-inch model from what I read. And they're not very cheap either. So
no, definitely not.
And also I think the design is a bit different than the Surface Book 2, I think, right? Because the Surface Book 2, you had that kind of like an accordion-like hinge at the back.
Yes.
And this one, I don't think this one has the same kind of look, but
hopefully we'll find out soon.
We'll find out soon. Yeah. Who knows? Yeah.
Yeah. And this is not the first notebook or whatever tablet hybrid that has 32 gig of RAM either. This is kind of probably going to see lots of this, and it'll eventually become the norm. But it's nice that we're headed that way. All right, and finally, for all of us that use GitHub, all of the core features have been made free. Who knows how long this is going to last, but if you had a free account previously, you could not create you couldn't create repositories that were private, and then you couldn't share it with multiple users, like specific users. And so they're kind of opening that up more to kind of, I think, really be more competitive with some of the other Git repositories that are out there.
Yeah, it's like unlimited private repositories with unlimited collaborators
Right.
for all, including teams and stuff like that. So,
Yep. If you want to do stuff like enterprise-based sign-ins using SAML and stuff like that, then you still have to pay. But yep, here we go. That means free unlimited private repositories with unlimited collaborators for all. So that's pretty sweet. I think I don't know. I like GitHub a lot, but one of the things I was just like, oh, the thing that I want to do, I have to pay for,
yeah.
so I can't. But now they're opening it up, so this will be cool to see.
Yeah, we'll post a link for this this information, but the prices, like I said, the free one is obviously free, and then you have the team category, which is like $4 per user per month, and then you have the enterprise, which is about $21 per user per month or something like that. So it's good stuff.
Yeah. Let me see, what else does it say here? Yep, that was it. So I like GitHub. I know a lot of people jumped ship after Microsoft bought them, which I think is really ridiculous. But GitHub, it seems to be, they just have more money now because they're under the Microsoft umbrella. But they're really, it seems anyway, that they're running a lot of the stuff on their own as their own entity with, Microsoft helping with probably the funding and stuff like that. So yeah, I am a big, I like using Git. I'm still learning kind of like the nuances behind it. So I'm by means not an expert or anything like that, but it's definitely, for all the PowerShell stuff that I do, I used to just keep it on OneDrive. But I just put everything on Git. Or even sometimes, depending on what I'm doing in Azure, in an Azure DevOps repo, to kind of keep all the code there and not have to be like, oh, where's the OneDrive? Let me go to the web page. And yep, so everything is there, command line, and easy to update and whatever.
I know some people use OneNote actually to keep their codes. Yeah,
it works. Whatever works.
Whatever works, right?
Yeah.
But yeah. That too, you can save it in your OneDrive and then access it from anywhere too. But Git is definitely something very useful for coding and for sharing and all that fun stuff.
Yep. So check out that announcement from GitHub, which is I like it.
Yeah. So what else we're gonna mention? So I started off with Patch Tuesday. It is Patch Tuesday this week. It's the fourth patch cycle in April. And we're yet to see what's going to happen in the next few days, whether there's any buggy patches or stuff like that. So I have been posting a lot of information on these patches in my Tech Connect group on Facebook. So and if anyone's want to keep up with that or want to avoid something, definitely join the Tech Connect group. I will post a link in the YouTube notes, but it's facebook.com/TechConnect with a K. It's all one word. And also follow me on Twitter. I tweet out a lot of the stuff too, so you'll have all that information. Speaking of patches, I've been using Patch My PC for third-party applications in a lab environment, right? I run my config manager environment and stuff like that for testing purposes, and so I've been using it, but it's very in a small scale, situation. So I decided that I was going to use it in my production environment this month and my work, and that's what I did. So I implemented it, and I'm getting I'm actually pretty flawed with what it finds for applications that, hardware inventory reports back from all the clients, right? So it's pretty slick how this tool works. And so not only that it does, you can create applications for Config Manager or even Intune. There's a hook for Intune as well. So that's, if you just want to create applications and make it available, so your end users just want to like, hey, I want to use Notepad++. I don't have it. They just click and install it. But then it also has another piece where it does updates on these third-party applications.
Hmm.
They don't have to be the same, but you can choose the ones that you normally need to want to patch. So it'll supersede the previous ones out there, and then it uses sub as the mechanism for delivery. So basically, it goes out, just like your Microsoft software updates, and that's how it gets uh, patches put on your third-party applications. Really, really slick. So the piece that I talked about, where it connects into your config manager database, and looks for the inventory information on what all of your clients have reported back for what they have installed for applications.
Hmm.
I'm just like, what the heck is this? I've never even heard of these applications before. But this is what people are installing on their systems. You got like, sometimes you'll have like 5 instances of it, or sometimes it's one, and sometimes it's like, you know a lot more, like, so I can now basically, select those and say, hey, I bet these applications are out of date, you know. So, create an update for these, find the latest updater for it, and then deploy it. So you're always on top of security and stuff like that. So pretty slick stuff.
Yeah, the discovery part of it is like right there.
Yeah,
You don't have to be like, oh, what do I need to patch? Oh, this is what you need to patch. You don't have to
exactly.
guess.
Yeah.
So that's pretty
Uh,
sweet.
yeah, it's pretty sweet. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm doing that for the first time in a big production environment, and we'll see how the next few months go, and go from there. Yeah.
Sweet.
There's a lot of improvements and stuff. Yeah.
Cool.
So what else? Anything else technology wise that? So we had a discussion. This is something you and I didn't discuss this, but there's been some discussion in our private channels about phones. So this is a very interesting topic, right? In terms of Face ID and thumbprints and stuff like that, and I mean, I think there's good arguments in one particular brand or manufacturer over the other, but I think in my personal case, I always feel like use what you feel is best for you. Like if BlackBerry is the tool that you really like, which I used to like Blackberries actually, by the way. Back in the day, I used to have different models of the Blackberries. But if
Oh
that's what
dear.
it is, yeah, I did. And I even had one, the one where you actually clicked on the screen. Like actually it was you had to press the screen to type and stuff. It wasn't like just a touch. Anyways, uh, dating myself now. Uh, so, but so the reason why I'm bringing this up is because there's been a discussion about, well, Face ID and stuff doesn't work when you're using mask because of COVID, which makes sense. It's not going to work because,
Hmm.
right? Yeah, it is kind of an inconvenience. I guess the point is there should be an alternate technology built into whatever phone,
Hmm.
and the one in question is iPhones, right? So maybe there should be like a fingerprint reader at the back and stuff, but then you also have the issue with cases. So I don't know how Android phones work because I don't really use them, but how does that work with a case and stuff like that? You can't really have like a fingerprint thing at the back, or
Yeah,
maybe
I
it's
mean, so there's two discussions that a person can have. Um, Number one, from a technical perspective, if you look at the technical specs of the hardware and then the technical specs of the operating system and software on top of it, which phone is better? Okay. And that's non-emotional. It's just you look at it and say, okay, this one is better. Um, and you have to come up with agreements of like, okay, if this phone has a better camera but a slower CPU,
Mhm.
how do you rate that?
Right.
But then there's the argument that you can't ever win, which is like, what's the phone that's going to be most useful to you, right? I mean, you find the iPhone useful to you because your entire family is on it and you can do the things that you want to do with it. And then the discussion is over. And you don't use Macs, you use iPhones. You know, you're a
Right.
Windows person.
Right. I'm a
Me,
Windows guy. Yep.
the only reason I stopped using iPhones years ago is because I just really got super bored of the interface. I was like,
Oh,
oh,
right. Yep.
I'm like, you know what? Let me try Android for a year or two, and let me see what I think of it. And the first 6 months, I was going nuts. Like, why did it do this? Why did it do this? Why did it do this? But as now that I've been on it for several years, I'm like, holy cow! I can see why the Android community, specifically the Samsung Android community, is gaga over their phones because I don't have Face ID, I have Retina scan. If
Ah,
that is not working,
yes.
if
That's
that's not
different.
working, I can use the fingerprint scanner, which is depending on what phone you have, it's in a position that you can get to it easily. Either it
Right.
could be on the front. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure
So I
if
had the
this.
previous model of the iPhone, and it had it in the front, which used to be the button that you press to change the menus and stuff.
Yep.
But they got away with that in the iPhone 11s. Now it's just like, I think it's also with the iPhone 10 where it's just a full screen. There's no more buttons, right? It's just all just touch.
Yeah.
Um, but
So
yeah, so my thing about Androids is that I used Androids long time ago. I can't remember the make and models of it. It's been so long, but I found like the consistency between when you jump from one manufacturer to another, it was like, wait, it was a like whole learning curve again with, you know, the OS was not standardized, right? I don't think Google tried to finally took reins about it in the later years and said, no, we got to kind of have a little bit more standard in the OS or something. But it was like, if you used a Samsung, it was different. If you used Kia, it was different. If you used whatever, right? Whoever makes these devices. So that's what like kind of like, oh,
I mean,
put in.
it's that's the same. So Mac, Macintosh, actually Apple hardware, phones and computers is the only technology out there that will be consistent across platforms, except for like operating system versions, right?
Mhm.
So even with Windows computers, like some will have fingerprint readers, some will have manufacturer added software that makes it a little different, and it's like, okay, where's this thing that I'm looking for, that I had on my Asus versus my HP? And even between HP, you may not find that
Between the
Windows.
models, right?
Yeah, and so
Yeah,
I would say that there's fragmentation, a bit of fragmentation there.
yeah.
On Android, it's definitely absolutely very fragmented, but there are some like major players, which would be right now Samsung, probably OnePlus, and maybe, yeah, and definitely Google.
Yeah,
And
I
then
thought I
there's
read something about OnePlus the last couple of days. I think they got a new one
Mhm.
coming out. OnePlus 8 maybe, or I can't remember.
Yes. And so
And then
everybody,
Pixels too, right? Pixel 4 is the latest one.
yes.
Yeah, so
So, I mean, each one has its strengths. Like the Samsung hardware is absolutely stunning,
is a superior one,
but
right?
I don't know if it's superior again. But
Okay.
the um, the software that they put on top of it is super annoying. But there's little things on it, like it has a pulse oximeter built into
Oh, that's
the
cool.
phone, and so before and after a workout you can check it. A lot of things, for a while, if you tried to get a pulse oximeter at off Amazon or your local pharmacy, you couldn't find one because everybody was buying them like crazy. But with
Right.
these, it was built in. Um, but I mean, I hate to. The only way you can really do a good measurement of this is really look at, okay, these are all
I
the
don't
technical.
think you can do a good measurement on it. I think it's all based on use case. It's depending really what you want out of it and what kind of apps you're looking for, right? You may have, one platform has more apps or versus the other or whatever,
Mhm.
So
Yeah, but
for
you
my
can
family, like I
take.
said, we're all iPhone users, and the reason is one is because of the apps, and then we also use the Find Friends
Mhm.
feature that's very common on iPhones, where we don't use it for like spying purposes, but it's more of a safety security purposes in my family. So okay, my daughter is here, hey, how come she said she was going to be home, and is she all right or something like that, so when they were traveling back and forth for to go back to their colleges and stuff, when they left, we were like, okay, we'll all right, so I made it to the border, okay, good, all right, so we'll check again in 20-30 minutes. Oh, okay, she's at this point, oh, finally made it to the dorm, we're good, we can go to bed,
Mhm.
so we use it as a safety thing and stuff like that. So it works really well for us. So for me to switch, I would actually lose that piece, at least that one particular piece that I feel like is very important at this point in time.
Yep.
So, but who
I
knows?
the one thing that, like, in my opinion, I think right now Android has a edge hardware and software wise
Mhm.
over Apple, just because it is a more open environment to develop in. So, for example, when we were thinking about getting a phone for my daughter, I wanted an application that, because we are mixed, that could work between regardless of what operating
Oh,
system you're on. Like, okay,
okay.
if she can push a button on the phone or launch an app or whatever, or she leaves a particular zone, that the phone alerts us and stuff like that. And the iPhone couldn't do it, but
Oh, wow.
at the
Okay.
time,
Yeah.
the Android version of it would. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. I would not have expected that. I would have expected the
Yeah.
iPhone to actually be able to do this kind of stuff. And there's just like nuances like here and there. Like, okay,
Yeah.
I guess the Android platform is more customizable. Like if I didn't like this operating system anymore, I can wipe it, download something that I wanted, throw it on there, and whatever. But again, like I'm like I don't really want to argue about it. I literally don't care,
Yeah. Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
but you
No,
could.
but actually, it makes the good points though. Like, I never thought about it before about like, especially like your face, when you're using this authorization mechanisms. Before I was using fingerprint, okay, yeah, fine, and but occasionally it won't work if your finger was a little dirty or if the button was a little greasy, and you're like, oh damn it, and
Mhm.
then you gotta try to wipe, and so there's nuances there. And then the face ID, I'm like, oh, okay, cool, so now sometimes some of my apps that I have to log into, I don't even remember what the passwords are. I just like, okay,
Mhm.
hopefully the Face ID will work because I really don't remember it. I don't want to reset it, you know.
Sure.
But the other thing you're like, yeah, it's true. Like, I had to go out the other day and I put on a mask. Yeah, it doesn't work. So now you're required to do the PIN and, and stuff like that. So I don't know whether these manufacturers like iPhone and stuff didn't think ahead, of these kind of things.
I mean,
Maybe now they would.
at least Samsung did because again, it's using my
Yeah,
retinas. It's using my
Retina. Yeah,
eyes, and so.
exactly. That's pretty cool.
Yep. And the
So,
other thing is, it really seems like Microsoft has really cozied up to Samsung because you hear all this stuff about like, oh, now the Samsung phone with your PC companion can do this with Windows PCs, and you can
oh
drag and
yeah,
drop
yeah.
files, and you can get text,
I heard that. Yeah,
all this kind of stuff. It's like, okay, that's
yeah,
kind of cool. That's one of the reasons I'll probably stick with Android
yeah.
for a while until the
I,
Microsoft Android
I
phone
might
comes
have
out.
to check it out in the near future. Once this one
Yeah.
is a bit older, I might have to try to.
The early Androids, yeah, were pretty horrific, I think.
Yeah, I think that's
Uh,
where I lost the taste for it. It was the early Androids, and But if I had just stuck with it or switched over halfway through, may have been a fanboy. But
Yep.
yeah, but that's cool.
Mhm.
So what else? Anything else technology related?
No, not technology related. I do have a question to ask everybody is if you go to Trader Joe's, I can't get this in Florida because I guess they don't have the right license to do this, but apparently they have a whiskey sampler that I can't get. And so I'm curious if anybody can get it, and if you're a proper whiskey drinker, then, I'd be interested to hearing your opinion on,
At a Trader Joe's?
yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen that in mine.
But we have wine and beer and stuff like that, but not hard liquor.
Yeah,
And
that's what we have.
when I asked the guy who was at customer service, he's like, "Oh yeah, we don't have that right. We don't have that license in Florida, but in other states like California, they do have the
Okay.
right to sell." I'm like, "Oh, that
So-
stinks."
That makes sense because we can buy wine and beer from the grocery store and stuff like that. But when we want liquor, we have to go to a liquor store.
Yep,
It has to
same
be
here.
state-owned, right? And so that makes sense because I've never heard of that before. But whiskey.
Your
sounds-
liquor stores are state owned?
Well, yeah, they're not state-owned, but they're licensed by the state.
Okay,
obviously,
got it,
right?
got it. Yeah, yeah.
So it's the state liquor stores. But then there's one right down the road from me. It's in a small convenience store with a gas pump, gas station. But they have, it's basically a liquor store and they sell some chips and all that fun stuff. But that's what they are. So you have to go to these places to get
Yes.
your real hard liquor. Where else? Like same thing. I think I know in Quebec too. It's the same thing. You have to buy. They have theirs is a provincial liquor stores. They don't have. You can't buy it from like a convenience store and stuff like that. They're actually province control and run liquor stores.
Okay.
You can buy wine and stuff from grocery stores and stuff like that. So it depends, I guess, where you are. They have different licensing, I guess. So, but yeah, we can. If anybody knows about this and if you can get it where you are, let Prayer know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was really disappointed. I'm like, oh man, that stinks.
Yeah.
So
I wonder, can you get it online?
I don't think you can purchase liquor online, can you? That
think
seems very because you can't cross state lines with liquor, can you? I don't think you can. You can't ship it that way. I'm pretty sure you can't. I think it's illegal.
But you can buy wine online, right? I mean, people get wine shipped all the time. Like
That's wine. This is hard liquor I'm talking about.
yeah, I know.
I could be wrong. Maybe I don't know. For some reason, I feel like that.
Someone needs to tell us.
Yes, yes. Maybe I'm thinking like Prohibition era, Dukes of Hazzard era.
This speakeasy or something like that.
Yeah. Ay.
Anyways, so do I have my peace sign right this time? Because someone commented that I had it upside down, and I realized it was upside down.
Did you really? I honestly never noticed.
Yeah, I had it
right.
the other way around. I had the 3 spikes on the top.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, I didn't even think about it. It's just I just put it up.
It's hilarious.
So it's
Oh my
correct
God.
now.
Yes.
And hey, so here's something like, okay, so today I guess, so there's been a lot of like hoopla between Zoom and Microsoft Teams, and whose is bigger, whose is blah blah blah, who can do it better, and obviously there's a lot of chatter about Zoom because of all the security vulnerabilities that they came out, and they're trying to make some strides with it, and stuff like that. So, but there's so Microsoft Teams has been catching up, I guess, on some of the feature sets that Zoom has. People have been, but in Zoom I can see 9 people on the screen or whatever, and but Teams you can do 4, and I guess that is in the works, and it should be out very, very soon in Microsoft Teams. And then same thing with backgrounds and whatnot, right?
Yep.
Uh, so I was just playing with this. So I guess it showed up in mine after I did an update, and it's called Show Background Effects. So I'm just gonna pick. But what's interesting is that peace sign at the back, it keeps showing up until I move away. Like, isn't it weird?
It is really bizarre.
So even if I pick like I don't know, let's pick this one, whatever that is. I have no idea. But so there's still some AI or something that needs to change here to get that fixed, because otherwise I'm just gonna have this moon effect at the back of me. Anyways,
Or you can just take it down.
yeah,
It might
I
be
could just
cheaper.
I could
Yeah.
just take it down to. It's true. Yeah, but anyways, I would just want to show what this is all about.
Yeah, it's like Zoom's had that for quite a while. And another funny thing about Zoom is you can choose your chroma key color. So you can choose your people in meetings that I go to have been choosing their like flesh tones.
Okay.
And so like their face looks like a beach and you just see like their mouth moving
Oh my
and stuff like that. But then you just see their whole face as a beach. I'm like, what is going on right now? It's pretty hilarious when you first see it, but then it gets a little annoying. Another cool feature about Zoom is apparently you can find Zoom accounts for sale on the dark web.
Yes.
Because it's been so popular.
I think it's like what 500 million or something they said out there. It's like,
yeah, that's what I read.
it's
So
crazy. So
I mean, the popular platform is going to get attacked. Like years ago, it was Microsoft constantly getting hacked and blah 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 blah. Like Linux is secure and Mac OS is secure. Well, guess what? Now they're attacking Mac and Linux and stuff like that.
Right.
And of course, Zoom, when it becomes popular, because I mean, honestly, like it is really solid. It's very very good.
Yeah.
My daughter's school uses it for all of their online stuff. And it just works. And you can see the entire class up on the screen at once.
Right.
And the teacher has complete control over who can talk and who can't talk and what they can see and stuff like that. And, I would say Teams is still like not quite a teenager yet in that era, but it's catching up.
So what I didn't realize about the capabilities of Zoom was I just learned recently was that there's some organizations were using it when they're doing training or teaching stuff, and they said if we can do breakout rooms in Zoom. I'm like, what are you talking about? They're like, we can have one Zoom meeting and then just have like, okay, you 5 of you go off and break off into this breakout room or whatever to do this little assignment, and then you 5 go here and whatever, but they're all still in the same meeting somehow. It's not like multiple meetings. I didn't know that existed actually.
Yeah, and if you have Zoom for your organization, you can create like teams or channels, and so you can call a group at the same time. You don't have to schedule a meeting. There's chat capabilities, file transfer capabilities within the chat. I mean, when you look at it, it's like, wow, this Teams and Zoom look very similar. The one thing I keep hearing people say about why they don't like Teams is that it just does too much. Which I think
too much.
It does too much. They're like, if it can be made light, like they miss the idea of like simple chat windows in Skype. We still have Skype for Business, and people love using it because they can have individual windows for Skype, and that this is rolling out for Teams just now.
Right.
We'll eventually get it. But it's like little things like that, and just like, clicking in between teams, there's a lag there, even on a really fast PC, and stuff like that. But when you're in Zoom and you're doing the same thing, it's just really simple and fast. And so, I mean, I like Teams a lot. I use it a lot.
I like Teams a lot. I use it every day, and I learned something new about Teams, like how to use live events. I was like, what's the difference? And then we started having to do that the last 2 weeks or so at my work to do some live, obviously live demonstrations for admitted students and stuff like that. And I didn't realize it's like a TV station. That's basically what you're trying to do, like producing, and then you got speakers and you got pushing content, and then lining things up. And I'm like, oh, that's very interesting.
Yep. Yep.
And I also like how you can have private chats going on in the live for the people that are involved with it,
Mhm.
and then just a Q&A for the folks who are participating or joining us.
Exactly. Right.
So that's pretty cool. Yeah, I guess that slowly it'll improve. There'll be new features and stuff that are in the works right now. So I had like raise the hand, and obviously the background effects right there, and the breakout rooms are coming up next and stuff like that. So
Exactly that. Right. Cool.
It's good stuff.
All right,
Anyways,
my battery's about to die, so we better wrap this up.
all right. So until next time, I am Hooch on Twitter at Hooch Hoorge.
Oh, brother. And on Twitter and Instagram, you can find me at the IT Jedi.
Yeah. And so if you are first time watching our show, or have been watching our show, please subscribe to our channel and spread the word and get your friends to subscribe, and let us know what else you'd like us to talk about. Cheers.
See you later.
Fork, fork, fork.